Me, Noel.
Okay, thank you, my dear.
I'm going to do some questions for you.
All right.
The first question that I need is, do you know teacher portfolio strategy?
Yes, I have heard about that 10 years ago, and I think it's really a very good way to teach students. But of course, it has advantages and di- di- disadvantages. But I think nowadays the teachers are using that for teaching English.
Okay. Do you think that it is useful strategy?
Yes, but for a while, not always, because I think as a teacher you need to use different things, different approaches, because if you just are going to use one, one way to teach students, I think at the end it won't be so efficient. But if you use, I mean, as many strategies as you can, of course, it will be great.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, what are the advantages for teaching development?
For teaching development, okay, there are lots of advantages because you can realize the levels of students according to their developing ways. For example, when we start, I think maybe A1 A level, you can see the student is not able to speak, of course, but by the time and by learning the different things, especially the basic grammar, you can see how the student is going ahead, and in that way you can give a feedback. So it is for levels, so you can do what the student needs. I think because of that you can be able to know.
Okay, thank you. Next question is, what might be the benefits for your students of following this portfolio?
Hmm. One of the benefits is the students can know what they are learning and what are their lacks. So they can also have feedback for them, and they can test and they can give an analysis. So they are able about what they are learning. I think this is the positive way of a teacher portfolio.
Okay. And what kind of information do you have exactly in the portfolio, if you have one?
In the portfolio, you have all the students' backgrounds. For example, what languages they learned before, what about if they already know one or two languages, or how long did it take to learn for them, where did they learn, if they had the chance to go abroad to learn the language. So you can have a profile of the student. So in that way, you can know what he really needs. So I think you can get the main knowledge of the student.
Okay, thank you. Now I am going to ask about peer strategy. The first question is, have you had the experience of peer observation strategy?
Look, especially strategy, yes, I have. Had experience to be observed and also to observe other teachers. I think it's interesting, but of course, maybe it cannot be so nice to students, because I mean to teachers, because if someone is there just sitting out and looking at what we are doing, of course maybe you can feel like this is a stranger person in my lesson. Maybe it can cause a kind of um, an easy way, but I think it's important because when we take feedback from other people, we can know what are about their weakness, what we need to improve more. Because sometimes we don't realize, but if someone from out is there and they can see what they are doing, I think they can give a good critic about our lessons. I think it's good, but not always. Sometimes, of course, yes.
Okay. And how did you feel with this experience when someone else observed you?
Of course, not so nervous because I already have experience, but um, I think uh, it, it depends on the group of students. For example, once I had the chance that I was observed, but in that time I was teaching kids and children, and they they didn't like that idea because it is something someone is going to invade their space, so they didn't feel comfortable, and they changed their behavior because someone is there. They didn't behave in a natural way as they are. But when it is about adults, I think adults, because of the fact they're adults, they already know how to behave according to different situations. So it was okay for them. But for me, of course, I had to be more careful about what I'm doing, especially classroom management when it was about children, because sometimes children have different kind of behaviors. They can be nasty, playful, no? But I have to be more careful.
And also they are trying to understand what is going on.
Yeah, of
what
course.
is happening, why this person is in here, so they wonder, and anyone explain about
yes,
this.
yes, because
they just
we cannot
came
say
and do it.
yes, and we cannot say this person also because they shouldn't know. But of course, children don't like that idea, no?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
it happens.
Okay, the next question is, do you think peer observation is necessary for teachers' development? Why?
I think yes, but sometimes. Why? Because as I already said, it's important to get feedback from others. It's important to know from other people who are more specialized, something related to our work. And I'm sure they can have different ideas, or they can give us advice about what we can do. Also, they can give us advice about what we should teach, in what way we should act, in what way we should interact with people. So I think it is good, but it must be well balanced.
Okay. The next question is, have you noticed any change in your performance after this observation?
Yes, in a positive way, of course, because I remember when I was observed but the important point is it was by surprise. So I didn't know that I was going to be observed that day. So I was given a lesson, and after that someone entered, and I realized it was the owners or the coordinator, and they said, okay. So I thought, okay, they are going to observe my lesson. But in that time I was working with children, and we were doing groups, 3 or 4 people. They were having, communicative activities. But the observers liked that idea, and they said to me, yes, I like how you work. Children are working, they are changing their places. So they liked the idea, and that made me feel more confident about doing that kind of activities, because sometimes, according to some rules of the institution, students, children should be silent, they shouldn't move so much, but they are children, so they need to change their places, so in that way they can interact. So it was positive for me, and after that I was trying to do it more often.
Okay, thank you. Now I am going to ask about teaching journal. Do you practice journal strategy?
Yes, because sometimes I like to change what I am doing. Of course, I follow sometimes books, sometimes I try to find material from the net, but sometimes I'm trying to teach what we are doing in that day. So the lesson must be as in a spontaneous way. So I think it's a good idea, because students also start to interact to each other, and at the end, what we were planning to teach is not developed, but another topic more interesting is coming. So that makes interaction in the class, and everybody starts to communicate with each other. So I think to be spontaneous is really good, because students feel more self-confident.
But can you manage the topics at the same time? When you are coming a new topic, can you manage?
Yes, I try to manage. But how I can do it, I always read, and I always try to get information. When the students speak, I try to get to understand and to ask what they think like that, and also I ask information about that topic, so I can understand. For example, in my lesson for speaking, I have a doctor. He is an expert in neurological illnesses. Of course, I don't know anything about that topic, but many times he explains, he teaches. So I'm getting information from him, And after that, I start asking the others, what about, have you ever had in your family or maybe from other friends who have suffered that kind of illnesses? And they start to remember, yes, 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 it happened that day. And we are learning new terms because, it depends on the kind of students you have. It depends.
Okay. How often do you write your teaching journal? Why?
I try to do it maybe 2 or 3 times in a month because, as I said, it's important to, I mean, get interaction in the classroom and to be spontaneous. And why not so often? Because after that, when we start developing different topics, I think we should follow a structure. Useful expressions that make us speak in the right way, especially when we're talking about technique terms. So we need to know how to use the verbs, the expressions, so we can speak fluently. So for that, we need to have a structure, a plan. So for example, this week I'm going to teach how to present a speech. So there are a lot of expressions students can use. So next time maybe I can use journal teaching, and they can speak about what they did in the day, or any other topic. Maybe we can see, okay, what about news today, news in Turkey, news in the world, and they can, okay, I think this, so we can use the expression we learned the previous lesson, so in that way students can use and can practice the language. It must be very authentic.
I see.
Yes.
Thank you. Tell us, which strategy you consider much more useful to make you know what are the strengths and weaknesses in your performance?
Of course, when one wants to learn a language, there are different skills. For example, writing, speaking, listening, use of vocabulary. Okay, but every student has different abilities. Some students can be very good at reading, others can be very good at listening, but others can be very good at speaking, but their grammar is not good. So there are mixed abilities in the classroom. So what I can realize is, for example, in one lesson of 1 hour and a half, I try to use all the abilities as I can. So I can realize, okay, this student needs to perfectionate more speaking. This student needs to practice more listening. So in that way, because when I teach, I use internet, I use the screen, I use copies, we follow the book. So you can see, and also you can realize when students they don't feel self-confident about their language, so they don't want to speak. So I say, what's going on? So I try to make them feel relaxed. So because it's important, the atmosphere in the classroom. If the atmosphere is positive and warm, the students will be relaxed, and they will be able to take risk when they want to speak or participate. So, but of course, you can realize, for example, the student who speaks more, the student who wants to answer the question, of course, you can realize, this student has knowledge of the language, okay, but the student who doesn't want to speak, who doesn't speak loudly, he's not self-confident about the language, okay. So there are different factors, so you can realize easily. But of course, mostly I work with adults, so I try to make them feel relaxed because they are coming from work and they are tired. So first we start speaking about what they did in the day. Some of them studied, some of them went to work, some of them were at home.
To break the ice.
Yes, so they can feel relaxed. And also I speak about my routine. Today I went to work, today I was at home. So, and it's also important to put some humor in the environment. So if the students are having a good time, if they are having fun, they will like learning.
I see. As another question, do you have any other strategy that you use instead of previous ones? If so, can you explain them and their advantage?
Okay. I like to be spontaneous, especially when we talk about communicative lessons. So of course I try to use different things, but one strategy that I use at the end of the lesson or 20 minutes before the lesson, I see if we teach a very hard topic, for example, relative clauses, if conditional, for example, of course it can be boring, but we need to practice. So after that, we play, and adults really love playing. I mean, it's like children. Children like playing, but if we play with adults, it's really useful because adults spend nice time and they take that as a challenge, and they like participating, and they don't feel so tired. So, and also when I use games, I practice vocabulary, I practice pronunciation, study grammar, and they say yes, me, say, yes. So they don't feel so tired as they said because they are doing other things. So their minds are not so focused on formal grammar. Yes. So they need to be relaxed. So at the end, uh, they don't want to leave the classroom. So it means it is a very big advantage. Because I remember I did that for the first time. First time that I went to a company, I did, a game, and the second lesson they asked me, "Are we going to play?" I said, "Yeah, of course we will play, but first we must learn. After that can play." Ah, okay, they will help you.
This is a big motivation for them.
Yes, and they were saying, okay, don't worry about it. Let's finish this page and we can play." So it is, a big signal. It's a good signal that they liked it and it was efficient.
Okay, thank you so much.
Don't worry, it's my pleasure.
As a small introduction, Mabel is a teacher from Peru.
Hello.
We are in Turkey. And how long have you teach in here?
Yeah, in here it is about 6 years.
6 years. And how has been your experience in Turkey teaching English?
Teaching English. It was really, really good, but of course I could find many differences from learning English in Peru and learning English in Turkish. Here, students, I think it may be because of the culture, because of the mentality, they have other ideas. For example, especially mothers, fathers, when they want their son to learn English, they have the idea that their son needs a Turkish teacher who can teach the grammar, and a foreign teacher who can teach the language, speaking. But for me, of course, it doesn't have to do if the teacher is Turkish or not. If the teacher is a good teacher, it doesn't matter from which nationality he is coming. I think they can learn well. Here, Turkish students especially, they want their teacher to speak in Turkish. Not most of the time.
Translation technique, maybe?
Yes, they want that all the time. But this is a very old method. We are not using that. Sometimes, because maybe there are technical words, we can use. Okay, yes, it means in Turkish this.
But vocabulary.
Yes, but I don't do it in my lesson. Always I said in the first day, speaking, of course, Turkish and English, I said, we will speak just English in the lesson, not Turkish. If you don't understand, I can use body language, I can draw, I can show flashcards, I can write the meaning. Okay, so you must figure out, you must think, because this is not Turkish, this is English. So I always tell my experience, when I learn English, my teachers in the first day, she spoke in English, not in Spanish. And we were, but at the end we had to get used to, and we could manage. So in that way you will manage. It happened with adults, but with children, no. With children, the first days is something they don't want to follow that, but after that they get used to, because they are children, and they like and they learn very fast. But adults always
they insist.
They want you to say the same in Turkish, but I say no, you must think, or just catch the idea. There is no need to know all the words in the text. Just if you understand the main idea is enough. After that, when you learned, and by the time you will understand word by word. No? I think because adults, because of their ego, and it's normal, they want to learn fast and they want to know everything. It's normal, but it takes time. It's not learning, I mean, any other thing. It's learning language. It's other thing. It's completely different from learning maths, from learning chemistry, biology, because it's in your language. You can study hard. You can memorize. Okay, you can. You know the language. You know the language. You have the knowledge. But for a foreign language, it's different. You must start like the process of development when one is a baby. You know, it's follow different steps.
Yes,
So
it takes much more time.
definitely.
Thank you so much,
Don't
Nobel,
worry,
again
don't
for the
worry.
interview. And thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Gracias.